ceremony. If you are happy, please show it by putting your hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are happy, can you show it by putting your hands together? Well done, well done, well done. I am happy, I am happy. DJ, you are doing very well. And we hope that the mics will continue to back us and give us all the support. Thank you very much, DJ. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as our customs, traditions demand, and very customary in the Gambia, before we go into any program, we start with prayers before we even introduce. Please, let's start this with our individual prayers. All right. Thank you very much. Amen. May God the Almighty answer all our prayers. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this morning we gathered here as young people interfacing with our representatives, with our partners, and with our government to discuss on very important and salient matters regarding our country. It is important and salient for us because it has to do with the reforms. And anytime we talk about the reforms, we are not just talking about the past or the present. The focus and the intentions are always to make the future better, better than our present and our past. But who are supposed to be the lawmakers, the government, the parents, and leaders in the future? No other person but ourselves, the young ones. So it is imperative that when government that we put into office initiate reforms on our behalf, that at different intervals we are able to take time from our schedules to directly engage these mechanisms to provide feedback to them as to what is working, what we perceive not to be working, and what are our recommendations. But as young people, we could not do this alone. We thought it's wise that we are able to do this important activity with our representatives and the local authorities. And that's the more reason we said, instead of just inviting the mechanisms, such as the TRRC, the CRC, the National Human Rights Commission, and the Security Sector Reform personnels, we also need to invite our governor, who is the head of the region, the area council as a regional government, our National Assembly members as our representatives in the parliament, and of course the chiefs as local authorities. But it is not just these people that we have invited. The invitation is being extended to diverse group of people: youth representatives, representatives of youth organizations, young people from the ghettos, young people in the market, persons with disability, and of course, young people in school and those out of school. This is to have a diverse representation and to have a conversation around key issues that affect us and affect our lives. This event is being hosted by the Gambia National Youth Council under the Ministry of Youth and Sports in partnership with the Gambia We Want, TAF Foundation, and other actors, with a very generous support from the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and other UN agencies under the Youth Connect framework. Allow me at this moment, on behalf of the young people of the Gambia, to appreciate sincerely all the support we had received from all actors, and again to appreciate and extend gratitude to our representatives for finding time within their busy schedule to be with us. Of course, I am the Executive Director of the Gambia National Youth Council, but I am also a citizen and native of West Coast region. And here I am a proud citizen because we call and our representatives respond. Can we give them a round of applause for being with us here? Without much ado, I will just take this moment to invite our Honorable Governor to deliver his welcoming remark. Honorable Governor.
Good morning, everybody. And let me start by recognizing the UNDP country rep present, the advisor to the Minister of Justice, the majority leader of the National Assembly, Honorable K.K. Barrow, other National Assembly members here present. We also have our councillors here, West Coast area, Brikama area councillors are also present here. I also want to recognize them and also recognize all the youth groups which are present here. I can see the face of the Children's Parliament. Our representatives from the West Coast are also here. I want to welcome all of you to the West Coast for this very important gathering. I've had meetings with most of you. Most of you have seen me before. And my task today is very simple. And that's to welcome everybody who is here to partake in this activity as the head of this region. But I want to take this opportunity to add a few words, or to give you a few words before the presenters of this program actually come on stage. And I want to begin by expressing the very serious concern, or may I even call it a frustration, of the growing inability of our young people, not only young people, but the growing inability of people to respectfully accept the viewpoints of people which are different from ours. I think this is the biggest problem in our society. And the message I want you guys to leave with from this meeting would be the virtues of tolerance and also the virtues of kindness, or generosity, if you want to call it that way. I think we as the people who show concern, who say we are concerned about the progress of this country, should be ready to accept that we'll have to have different views whenever matters are tabled before us. And unless we are able to accept other people's points of view, we are not going to make any progress. Most of the time, all we are interested in is how to shame people who disagree with us, or how to shun people who disagree with us. These are not virtues that we should maintain as Gambians. I think this country, like any other country, would have issues on which people have divergent views. But they have a healthier way of going about it, and that's to have recent debates and discourse so that they agree on something to move forward. So that's the message that I want you as young people, because I see on the back of your t-shirts you are saying young people should be involved in all, should be at the center of all reforms. But that can only happen if you are tolerant and you want to listen to other people's points of view. Then you'll be capable of handling those messages as young people to move this country forward. And I want to say, as governor of this region, being the biggest region in this country, I cannot but only accept or welcome such meetings, because this is a sign of our strength, that we can come together, discuss issues, and then make a breakthrough. I think this is the first step that we have to come together, and I hope the meeting has been on since yesterday, and I've been informed that it has gone very smoothly. And I want to all of you, let's continue in that spirit. What is being discussed here are very important documents, as Mr. Dabu has already highlighted. This is a historic event. All these documents, we've been having them before, but hardly were people involved in the discussion of issues that are contained in these documents. So if we have the privilege to look at these documents at the drawing table and help the consultants to make sure that they come up with a model that can serve this country, not only for the next 10, 20 years, but even for the next 30, 40 years, when most of you will become old people by then. So as you rightly said, it's your turn to be involved in this, because the document is more about your future than we do the old people. But this has to be done with discipline. And I want every youth or every Gambian to be jealous of how we behave in this country. Sometimes when youths come to me and say, there is no employment, I say government cannot create those employments for everybody. All government can do is to create an enabling environment for people to come and invest in these countries. But who will pack your bag and come to this country when every day you will see on Facebook or papers are threats that security is going to be broken, are threats that people are going to go on strike, are threats that people are going to go on demonstration, when those issues can be discussed as we are doing right now. And when those investors don't come, you are denying yourself of investments in this country where you can get employment. So I think we need to think again. Understand issues before you jump into issues. Ask questions. Let issues be clarified to you before you jump into issues. If you are ready to understand, definitely most of the things you are doing will not be necessary. You will not find them necessary to do. These are issues that frustrate me as head of this region, and I'm happy that people are changing. I have a lot of youth groups who come to me, and I see them, involved engaging in very fruitful activities. And I want to urge you to continue on this. The youth of this country, especially the youth of West Coast region, I want to thank you very much. I know what you are doing in terms of maintaining peace, in terms of talking to your colleagues, so that we all move towards this single vision we have to make Gambia the best country, if not in the world, but in the world. So on that, I want to thank again, to add my voice to the Mr. Dabo, to thank the sponsors of this program, both the UNDP and other bodies that are partnering with us to make sure that we move forward. And I owe you all your full attention, and make sure you leave this room with a new promise to be able to share, to be able to listen, to be able to be tolerant. You see, without tolerance, there's nothing you can do to move this country forward. Without generosity, this country cannot move forward. Because when I talk about generosity, I'm even talking about sharing things you have with other people, let alone sharing what belongs to everybody. If you are generous, then you will know the freedoms you are talking about is a space for everybody. If you are not generous, you will think the freedom is for you alone. Every other activity should shut down for you to conduct your freedom. And I think that's the problem that most of you have. It's because you are not generous. You cannot accept other people's points of view because you are not tolerant. Tolerance means having to accept things that you are seriously against, but they are opinions of other people. I think when we move in that direction, everything in this country will be peaceful. And as youth, you are always behind all the noise in this country. And I think you can do a lot by talking to your colleagues so that they will try to understand issues. As this is a weekend, but you are here because you want to understand issues so that you can know how to criticize them, or you can know how to enter into things that you need to do. So without wasting your time, I want to just give you these few things and urge you to be very active and participate fully so that our country can be a role model, not only in the West Coast, but in the whole of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Governor. That was a message well delivered, and we are officially welcome to West Coast region. Thank you for having us. The Governor in his welcoming reminded us that all progressive citizens must open up to dialogue, because we cannot all agree on every issue. So the only way we can move is to build consensus through dialogue. But again, he reminded us that the gap is getting wider, and of course between young people and the duty bearers. And there will be a continuous debate as to who should close this gap, whether it's the young people or the duty bearers. But of course, the message of peace is central, that all of us must be peaceful, because there is no way to peace. Peace is the only way. Thank you for that wonderful welcoming, reminders, and of course, a challenge to us, the young ones. And we hope the latter part of the conversation will enrich this debate and this understanding, and as you call for a bigger dialogue to ensure we sustain this dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, next I will invite the representative of UNDP, who has also been behind this whole engagement. I must say that Madam Aissata Day reached this country in the last 3 months. But her impact is as if she has been here for the last 3 years. And we hope that this energy, this positive energy, and reprioritizing, it has been a priority, but reprioritizing issues of young people will continue to provide the space where we can have these conversations. She is here with us since yesterday. And by the way, yesterday we were here at the PI-led youth sessions, where we invited young people to dialogue among themselves on the different mechanisms. And in the afternoon, we have a town hall meeting, where we invited some personnel to talk to young people on different issues, about gender, about rule of law, about responsible citizenship, but of course also about self-reliance and the relationship between citizens and the security. We were joined yesterday by rep from the police, Ministry of Interior, private sector in the person of TAF, Mustafa Njai, and also have Honorable Amul Nyasi, and we also have Madam Aissata, and we have some very good blend of participants and stakeholders in that conversation. Today, right after the opening, we are going to have the mechanisms to dialogue with us. Put your hands together in welcoming our sister, auntie, and mentor, Aissata Day, to deliver the statement on behalf of UNDP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Governor, thank you for hosting us. Honorable Member of the Parliament and your colleagues who are here, and all the councillors, Mr. Tumasi, who is representing the government and whom we've been working quite intensively lately, Honorable Head of all the institutions, the National Human Rights Commission, thank you for being here. Representative of the SSR sector, representative of the Commission on the Constitutional Review Commission, and of course the Transitional Justice. It's really an honor for me to be in West Coast region. It's my first time out of Banjul, so I'm really honored to be here, and I'm sure I will come back very often. UNDP is one of the major partners with all the stakeholders who are all in this room today, because our sense and our main mandate is development. And when we say development, it means that we have to bring together all the actors who can contribute to development. And without peace, it's very difficult to achieve development. So it's why in the new UNDP, and especially the new generation of UNDP, because you might have heard that the UN is going through an important reform where UNDP is more focus on its main mandate, but at the same time is bringing around the table the different actors to make sure that the national development plan that are adopted for each country are achieved, especially in terms of goals, but overall, the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goal, for which we are all aspiring as citizens, are also achieved in also the framework of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. Gambia is currently in a very historic moment, and every day I tell to my colleagues and to myself, we really need to thank God to be alive and present at this particular moment of the country and to be able to contribute. It is a historic moment in the sense of, as you know, the list of reforms that will be discussed this morning will be the foundation of the Gambia, which is already starting as a new Gambia. And we cannot build a new Gambia and strengthen the value of the nation without the future of that country. And the future of the country is, of course, the youth, the young and women who are in this room, but who are also around the country, for which the messages that you will hear this morning will be conveyed so that in each household, in each community, it can also be aligned with the value for which we have been educated and the values that are driving us. So it's important to continuously exchange on what is essential, what is bringing us together. I think the governor rightly said that. He mentioned inclusiveness, he mentioned tolerance, he mentioned generosity. Generosity in terms of sharing knowledge, generosity in terms of reminding what are our values, generosity in terms of focusing on the future and making sure that Gambia will soon be a reference not only for Africa but the whole world, and believe me, it's possible. It's an honor to be here and to be engaging, but at the same time to give the space for discussion, to listen to each other, to agree on what has to be fixed, what has to be, of course, in a proper timeline, but mainly what is bringing us together. And just to say that UNDP has been always in a backbone for the development, not only in the Gambia. We know how, for instance, when it was coming to support the electoral process, I think it was the main agency that stands to say we need to invest in these elections to make sure that the country move forward. And it's the same approach that we are using, not only as a UNDP, but in an integrated manner with all the UN agencies. Before standing here this morning, we've been consulting with all the UN agencies and many stakeholders who are here as partner with UNICEF, with UNFPA, with WHO, the WFP, you name it. So if I stand here, it's not only as UNDP, but as the whole UN to be here to support the people of the Gambia to move forward. And I appeal, as the governor just rightly said, to the youth to be curious, to know what is happening. The Youth Connect initiative that is now an African Union approach started by giving more tools to the youth who want to start something in terms of entrepreneurship. We already have a Youth Connect for Gambia, but what we also know about the Youth Connect initiative is to have the entrepreneurship, you have participation, inclusiveness, and this is why the Youth Connect is bringing also this component in terms of participation of the youth to be fully involved in all decision making. But we were saying yesterday, it's not only in terms of entitlement. Each of us, each of the young people have to ask every morning, how can they do, what is their own contribution to make the country move forward? And what does it mean? How can they connect with each other? The National Youth Council with Lamin, with leadership is so well known, have been organizing this event, and so many, but in partnership also with the larger youth association. Each of them has its own identity. It doesn't mean that you are merging and you losing your identity, but it means that while you are diverse, you are stronger. While you are together, you can move forward stronger agendas and fix things that you agree that need to be reviewed and face also new challenges that we all know can be very complicated for all the country in which we are living. I don't want to take much time, but I just wanted to thank you again and to reiterate the UNDP commitment to be side by side with you in this journey, and to say that it's amazing to know how even initiative like this can be initiated. Just to give you the anecdote, I think I was telling to Mr. Tomasi that this initiative is his baby, because we invited him as a country office to have this type of conversation. And I was discussing with Suleiman Marena and say, Suleiman, why don't you do something? And he's from finance, doing his management, and this is how we made it happen. So it's just wherever you are sitting, you can contribute. And don't never underestimate what you can do, because the impact is greater than when you can realize where we are doing that action. So please keep that spirit and make sure that the Gambia will be really the Gambia of reference, the Gambia of pride, the Gambia of value that everybody is aspiring to. And believe me, it's possible. Thank you again, and thank you, and thank you again.
Thank you very much. Let's give her another big round of applause. You know, when we meet, we always want to ensure that we have our little interlude. So allow me to invite Aji Olisamba, a poet, to, at this moment, give us a brief interlude before we go with the rest of the speakers. Aji Oli? Young people, can you put your hands together for another young person? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Aji Olisamba, and this piece is called Letter to My Ancestors. To the man who sealed the truth and chose the path of ignorance, to that man who played confused and made the soul's existence vulnerable, this is for the motherland, for its unborn tears and unspoken words, for its sands of times and its sails of how we forget. If I were to write a letter to my ancestors, I'll tell them about us, how we let the waves wash away their memories, how we forgot our pledge, how we could have been just like them, but we woke up to the wrong side of history. I'll tell them about how the cards got swapped, and how hope became distant when we got high with the powder of ignorance and danced to the symphony of tribalism, dug the holes of corruption and filled them with hypocritical laments and comments. I'll tell them about you, Mr. Politician, how you made us believe you were Moses only to drown us in the sea of darkness, smoke the pipe of injustice and removes all its silence. I'll tell them how I wrote a letter to my future generation and how my ink kept on spilling sorry like an accident, like a non-dramatic hyperbole. If I were to write a letter to my ancestors, I'll tell them about the poets, that they have run out of metaphors, that the brains are not more but stagnated. Will you listen if I tell you that even the angels are mad, so they're FaceTiming from heaven? Will you listen better if I remind you that the man with the white halftan, the max man, was kicked out, so do not underestimate Mr. Politician. For you remember just how spiritual of an experience that moment was. This is an elegy to my homeland. This is for the boy who was brutally murdered and won't live to see his son. This is for the girl who was raped and society blamed her. This is for the mother who had to bury her teenage son. This is for the man who walks around with the weight of a dead neighbor. This is for the child whose eyes speak storm and silence. If I were to write a letter to my ancestors, I'll tell them about us, and I remind you that there'll be tears, there'll be pain, there'll be hope, and there will be God. Thank you.
This letter to our ancestors is indeed quite loaded. And I hope by the time they reach our ancestors, they will watch us from heaven and bless us so that we can take care of all the issues we are going through. Again, I am being reminded that I should remind my speakers that we have a simultaneous interpretation for our persons with disability. So we need to slow in the way we speak so that they can actually catch up. So those of us who are coming among speakers and poets and artists, let's take note. Thank you very much, Ajay, for that wonderful submission. Next, we'll invite our own majority leader, who is, or let me say, who has been at the core of our engagement as civil society. He has been a brother, and he mentored most of us and guided us until date. I must tell you, even as an honorable member and a majority leader, he will often call and say, have you seen this opportunity? I think it's good for your young people. He will call and say, send me your email. Let me share this with you. Please share it with your young people. So it's telling us that despite his busy schedule, he is not disconnected to the young people and the youthful population. And having him here, among the first to arrive, also speaks volumes of his commitment and dedication to the cause of engaging young people. Please join me in welcoming our majority leader and honorable member for Kombo South, Honorable Kebake Barrow, to deliver his statement.
Thank you very much, Executive Director. UNDP Resident Representative, Madam Aishatu, Special Advisor to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Governor, West Coast Region, honorable members of the National Assembly, councillors from Brikama Area Council, Executive Director of National Youth Council, youth representatives present here, and our hosts, the residents of Buya. It is indeed a honor and privilege for me to stand before you to give you a few words of wisdom, as alluded to by the Executive Director of the National Youth Council. I had also gone through this 30, 40 years ago. I became a youth leader for Kombo South in the West Coast region in the 1970s. Since the establishment of the National Youth Council, the Department of Youth and Sports in 1975, headed by Chornabara Toure, who was the first executive director, and you have Umar Sy as the Minister of Youth and Sports. We have walked through the length and breadth of this country, bringing young people together and ensuring that the views of the young people are heard. I became a member of the second National Youth Council in February 1992, when we were inaugurated by the late President Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara in Janjambure Makati Armitage High School. That gave us the opportunity to draft the first national youth policy for the Republic of the Gambia, and we also participated in drafting the second national youth policy, and I am sure you are also now developing the fourth national youth policy. And some of the key elements of the national youth policy in those days is to ensure that our people, our young people, are positioned and they take a lead role in ensuring that they take their meaningful roles by developing the capacities and also giving them the insight to be able to do a lot of South-Side dialogue so that they know about their country, the ethics and principles of humanity that help them to move the agenda of development in this country. And I am very happy that United Nations Development Programs is still leading the process of development in this country, and they are involved in more interactions with young people to ensure that they know about themselves, know about their environment and their immediate partners, so that they are able to make an insight of what they need to do as young people of this country. And I think this is a moment for all of us, as members of this country and representatives of the young people, to take advantage of the key reform sectors that are being done in this country. This is an opportunity for all of us that we are making history. And this history is going to be written, and it is going to be written perfectly so that we understand what we have done to ensure that we have taken the right steps to be able to position the Gambia and also takes it back to all its old days in the 1980s, when the Gambia had been a signing nation in West Africa and also in Africa at large, where our former president has worked towards the setting up of the ECOWAS and also working with AU members of the countries and all the development agencies to ensure that human rights and dignity of people are enshrined in our constitutions and our development programs. And as young people, we need to learn about these things. And this is an opportunity for all of us to be able to share these moments with our colleagues and also open our ears and eyes to be able to have a big eye and be able to understand what the writings are on the wall. And I think that will give us the opportunity as young people to be able to take our meaningful positions looking at the 2013 housing population census, which gives us a figure of over 50% of the population as young peoples of this country. So we have a big role to play to ensure that the development programs in this country are more and fully developed and more fully implemented with the implementation and the involvement of our young people. So we have a role to play. And we want to help you to go through this journey. And this is a journey that is going to lead us to where we can shine as peoples of this country. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you to be good listeners and be able to take up the responsibilities that you have taken by yourselves so that you are more dedicated and committed to development of this country. And I sincerely want to thank all those people who have initiated and programmed this activity so that we share our thoughts with the young people of this country. And I want you to take this opportunity to make sure that this is a journey that we will go through you. And our National Assembly members, we are all very committed to make sure that the youths are put first in our development agenda. And we want to support that process. And we will want to assure you that we're going to join you in this development program. So on that note, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our able majority leader. I must tell you that I only notified him this morning, just 2 minutes or 1 minute before we start the official opening ceremony, that I would love him to give a word at the opening. Can you imagine if he was informed 3 weeks ago? What would have happened? So let's put our hands together for him. The message is consistent and is clear, that this is reform and it's an opportunity to fix this country. It's an opportunity to transform this country. It's an opportunity for us to be in a conversation that can take us to the Gambia we need. So if you have a vision, if you have an aspiration, this is the moment to plug into this reform. This is the moment to ask the difficult questions, but this is the moment to participate. Let me remind you with one mantra that we have at the National Youth Council. We said to government that no one in this world had ever managed to, and not the Gambia, no one can maintain peace by force. But we also tell our young people, anywhere we go, that so what it requires is to close the gap. That is a government put in by people, including the parliament put in by people, including the area council put in by people, and these people, over 60 to 70% of them are young people. So a conversation between these citizens and the duty bearers is not just important, but I think it's a wise idea. It is smart and wiser that people that are duty bearers have a conversation with those who put them in the office. And I hope that with all the representatives around and with the young people here, we will take this conversation to the next level. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, after thanking our majority leader, allow me to invite Fatoumata Diatta, one of our rising poets, to also deliver a short intervention. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Fatoumata Diatta. I am 12, playing hide and seek under the grey light still sunrise, followed by the drums of maybe joy, maybe torture, maybe exchanging me for enough to eat, maybe hope, maybe justice, maybe the two-faced man who is mourning in between my legs while I groan in pain, crying my heart out to the wall and my aunties dancing along with the clot that has my blood, my pride. If I don't survive this night, tell the world I gave into womanhood when I was a child. Tell my sister she won't go through my pain. My dowry is paying her school fees. At least I'll be her hero. My father said I'm a girl child, that the classrooms aren't enough space for me, so I need to be a woman satisfying the needs of a man his age. And if I don't survive this injustice, tell my child the world couldn't save my poor soul, or threaten me into becoming the woman with so much words and not chores that leave me restless, mindless. Probably nakedness will follow while my clothes lay scattered on the floor, and now pain, numbness, darkness. And if I don't live to see my children, tell them I died trying to be strong, trying to be praised by the people who raised me. Maybe I'll get a little attention when I give him his child and them their grandchild. But if I die on that bed trying to push the other life in me out to the same people who'd let my child go through my pain, tell God to forgive my soul for giving up on my ghost, for saving myself the trouble of seeing myself go through this pain. So let this go. Let the holes in my heart heal. Let me survive this injustice. Or maybe the little voice at the back of my head that's teaching me how to end a life that's ending mine, that took away my childhood in the cold hours of the morning without fear, without pity from my cries, without remorse from the way my clit is being wounded by his manhood. So when I take his life, maybe mom, maybe dad, maybe the family who isn't my family anymore would give me a name, tame me into the hands of the world and give me fame. I don't want to be a mother, so I'm choosing to be a murderer. At least I'm not stuck between the hard floor and the man 20 years older. So if I don't survive these cells, tell my village they gave up on my childhood a little too early. Tell my family I wasn't yet. And tell the world to end child marriage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatoumata. Again, someone may be wondering, why are we bringing these young poets to communicate? It is not just poetry. They are communicating some salient issues, some very important issues of concerns to them. From the poem we had on themes around early marriage, on teenage pregnancy, on injustice, on violence, but also about peace. So when we have our duty bearers, this is one way to pick into the mindset of our young people and things that are of importance to them and what we can do to be able to address their concerns. They may not be able to be at the podium and talk like we do, but they have different ways to manifest their concerns and things that are of importance to them. Through poem, through music, and of course through drama. So while they are coming over, I hope the key messages have been communicated. Once again, thank you, Fatoumata, for that wonderful presentation on child marriage and other themes. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will have just continued straight to have the official opening statement, but allow me to invite Kebambai to also come forward and deliver one short poem before we have the official opening statement. But also, please, let me use this opportunity to announce we have the representative of all the mechanisms, that is the reform mechanisms. The TRRC are represented, the Constitutional Review Commission are also being represented, and they're in the hall here, and we have the National Human Rights Commission being represented. We also have the security sector reform being represented. Let's give them a round of applause for taking time to be with us here. Kebambai can come and just drop this short point.
Greetings, children of the African terrain. In the name of love, in the name of light, and in the name of peace, I greet you all from the wordsmith. What brings people together is not the different beliefs that we have or the love that we have for one another. But what really brings people together is the hope that they have for each other. And I think in this gathering here today, a hope is born. A hope that young people mean so much more than just energetic and agile people. But we look at the young people and we see a future in them. And we believe that these are the stakeholders of our next generation, of our future. So we pass them the book of knowledge today. We pass the book of knowledge to the young generation and teach them early what we have learned so late. So ladies and gentlemen, the poem I'll be reading here today is called We Shall Go Home. And I hope you love this. And it reads, the poet said, when the madness of war is no more, when the hate of man have passed away, when the hard-drumming guns and bombs are cast away, when tyrants fall and dictators die, then we shall go home. Beyond the silent hills and gentle dales, beyond the western seas where the white man came to capture, to torture, the warrior, untamed, unnamed, the son of Kinte, we shall go home beyond the eastern suns where the black man came, where the wisdom was received, the miracle conceived, and the knowledge revealed, the Adam, the Moses, the Jesus, and the Al-Amin. We shall go home when good men return, when heroes are born, when dead martyrs are resurrected in the name of freedom, in the name of liberty, in the name of emancipation, the Malcolm, the Martin, the Lumumba, the Kwame Nkrumah, we shall go home to the promised land, the motherland, where freedom was born, where great men speak with the tongue of peace, the Rastafari, the Mandela, the Gandhi, the Kairaba Jawara, the Julius Tambaragi. We shall go home to the end of this poem, where this poem was written, spoken, unbroken, to break the chains, the shackles, the manacles, to conquer the fears and wipe the broken tears, to purify, sanctify, to unify the hearts, to educate, instigate, and liberate the minds of the longing slaves, the children of God, to tread the trails of knowledge, to set the journey home, then make that journey home to the love, to the light, and to the peace, for we shall go home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Keba. We shall go home. We shall go home to West Coast region, the home of the majority leader, the home of our governor, and the home of the young people. And right in Buyam, we shall be. That's part of my own addition to the poem. Thank you very much. So put your hands together for me too. Next, we will invite the representative of government and here we will say the special advisor to the Attorney General on the transitional justice, Mr. Hussein Tomasi, to deliver the official opening statement. Mr. Tomasi.
Thank you, Mr. Dabo. Honorable Governor of the West Coast region, Mr. Mr. Sanya, our host, Honorable Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Honorable Barrow, Your Excellency, Madam Aissata Deh, the UNDP representative, Honorable members of the National Assembly, area councillors, the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Emmanuel Diouf, Dr. Baba Galejalo, Executive Secretary of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, the President of the Gambia Bar Association, Mr. Saliu Tal, youth organizations here present. I'm not a youth, so I'm not going to say fellow youth, but to the youth of this country, I salute you all. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Tambedu, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this very important dialogue that is organized by the UNDP, the National Youth Council, the Gambia We Want, and some vital youth organizations. Unfortunately, the Honorable Minister is not here with us today, owing to some very pressing state matters, and that's why he has also delegated me to be here with you. Incidentally, I also understand that the Minister of Youth Affairs should have been here, was expected this morning, but unfortunately he's far away in Kigali on a very important state assignment. And I also wish to convey his apologies for not being present. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important for us to know that the reforms that this country has embarked upon are very serious reforms, very crucial. They are not reforms merely for the sake of embarking on reforms. We have seen that countries emerging from conflicts, oppressive rule, and other forms of conflicts, violent conflicts, usually embark on very elaborate reforms through the introduction of truth commissions, constitutional review commissions, legislative reforms, and other reforms agenda. We are not copying any country just because we say as a country we are emerging from conflict or from authoritarian rule and we want to put reforms in place. We are putting these reforms in place because they are very crucial for us, and all these reforms are intended to transform the Gambia completely from one era, what I would characterize as a very dark era, to a completely new era characterized by the rule of law and a flourishing democracy, as well as a sustainable peace. So the reforms we are embarking upon are not reforms for reform's sake. They are all geared towards an end. And the end result is that we transform the Gambia from what it is today to a better Gambia. That we all live in peace, where the dignity of every Gambian is respected, where the rule of law prevails, and where we can all exercise our democratic and human rights. Of course, as part of this transformation, the youth of this country have a very important role to play. And the government recognizes that fact. And that is why in the National Development Plan, youth empowerment and youth development constitutes a very significant and important pillar. If you look at, I looked at the back of your t-shirts this morning and I could see that the statement that the youths are at the heart of the reform project in this country. It is a truism, and nobody should take that away from you. The future of this country belongs to you. This country belongs to you. It is for you. It is for you to build it, for yourselves, and for posterity. Of course, by saying that you should build this country, it also means in the reverse that you should not do anything that would destroy this country. It has been echoed here this morning that you must imbue very good values, very good virtues. The Honorable Governor emphasized the need for the youth to be tolerant. The Honorable Majority Leader has also emphasized this point. I wish to state that it's important that as citizens of this country, in the exercise of our democratic rights, we should be law-abiding. There are laws governing every aspect of our lives in this country. Without laws, we would fall into anarchy, and nobody wants to be in anarchy, because in a situation of anarchy, there is lawlessness, and it would ultimately lead to destruction. We should all aspire to build our country and not to destroy it. Most significantly, we should all aspire to be very law-abiding. Of course, we recognize that we must create the space for everyone to participate in the reform process, and this we have been doing as a government from the beginning. Before we launched the TRRC, even during the process of the consultations of the Constitutional Review Commission, as well as part of the agenda of the National Human Rights Commission, all these reforms embrace a very deep consultative process, a very deep inclusive process with the youth of this country. You will not be left out in this process. And it is in that vein that I would commend the UNDP, the National Youth Council, and the Gambia We Want, and other youth organizations for putting together this series of dialogues that you started sometime last week, and you intend to continue in other regions of this country. They are very important. It's important that we continue to engage each other. One-off consultations are not enough. We must continue to engage each other, talk to each other, try to get feedback from each and every segment of the society as we move along in the implementation of the transitional justice process. Your Excellency, as usual, as a government, we would like to take this opportunity to thank the UNDP for the support to the transitional justice program of the Gambia. The UNDP has been there from the beginning, ever since we launched this transition, to support the whole process, and they still do. And Your Excellency, it's important that we share with the world that without your support, and we have repeatedly emphasized this, we would not be able to achieve the progress that we have recorded in the journey so far. Ladies and gentlemen, I will, on behalf of the Attorney General, be making a statement, I think, before we start the discussions, so I would not want to bore you with a very long speech, but I just want to congratulate the youth of this country for standing up for your rights. It is a different Gambia. Nobody can do anything in this country without recognizing the power of the youth, without recognizing the youth as a very important segment of this society. And I want to congratulate you for standing up for your rights. But of course, as I've stated, in standing up for your rights, you should recognize that we also have laws in this country. and we need to observe those laws. If we have issues with the laws, we should agitate for reform of those laws in the appropriate fora, in appropriate dialogue, in appropriate conversations. But let us always remain vigilant and eschew from taking the law into our own hands.